Now, Bert always told me that originally the role of Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke was to go to Wayne, but he recommends you do it. Is that correct, Mr. Arness?
Well, that's right.
Tell me that story. How do you get that famous role that lasts 20 years on television?
Well, strangely enough, I was sort of on the fence about whether I should take it or not, because I'd been in a movie that actually John Wayne's company had loaned me out to do this movie, and it was a really good part. It was one of the better parts that I'd had up to that point. And there was a guy by the name of Eddie Ludwig was directing this picture, and it starred Yvonne DiCarlo and three or four other well-known actors, and as I say, I had a good part in it. So when I asked Eddie Ludwig if he thought I should take the part, he said, well, he was very much on the fence about it. He said, gee, you're at a point now where if you got just the right kind of break, you might make it in movies, see? So he said, if you get stuck on doing a television series and it gets canceled, he said, boy, you're going to be in a hard spot there. So I was on the fence, didn't know what to do, and that's when Duke called me into his office, and he said, hey, you ought to do this thing. He said, it'll be really good for you. He said, you'll have the chance to really work in front of the camera and learn how to handle yourself and so forth. He says, like I did in those old serials that he used to do, you remember?
Yes, very well.
Sure, and he said you'll learn how to do stunts and ride well and do all that. He said not only that, you'll build up a tremendous audience of people that know you, and then they'll tune in to you later for other stuff. So anyway, that made a lot of sense to me, so I said, okay, you talked me into it, I'm going to do it. And of course, which was the greatest favor he ever could have done me, because look what happened, I got on there and it ran for 20 years. So he was, as usual, right about, he knew this business and everything about it. And he certainly gave me the right advice, for which I've always been extremely grateful,
Let's assume Wayne was not there to advise you. Do you think you would have turned down the role of Matt Dillon when it was first offered to you?
Yeah, I very possibly could have, because this director of this movie I was in, it was saying he was very questioning it a great deal. He said, you could lose a lot in trying to get into movies later if you do this series and it doesn't work out. He says, then you're kind of old hat and you'll have a hard time getting into movies.
Right.
And so Duke and a few other people, and I think the good Lord himself, made me realize that my move was to go and do Gunsmoke.
Boy, was that good advice, Mr. Arness.
I should say.
My God.
It certainly was. And as I say, I've always been extremely grateful to him for that advice. And then, of course, or you may not know, but he came on and introduced the first episode of Gunsmoke when it came on the air.
Right.
So that was a very nice thing for him to do.
And of course, he had such a big name then that people would tune into that first episode because the Duke introduced it.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah, so it was really, of course, as we all know, he was a one-of-a-kind guy, had a tremendous heart. He was an extremely generous guy, and it was, knowing him was probably the best thing that I had in the business. The years I spent with him was certainly the most fun, and, just feeling part of something that I don't even know if that exists anymore in the business now. It just, things are move too fast, and it costs too much, and nobody's having the fun that he used to then.
Would you say that John Wayne influenced the way you act and the way you look at roles? And was he a big influence on James Arness as an actor?
Well, I think probably so, yes.
Okay.
Of course, I tried not to directly imitate him or anything, but some of the attitudes that he had and the way he would approach things, I think undoubtedly it's just almost impossible not to. He was such a distinct, strong personality that, you know, you're bound to pick up some of his feelings about this stuff, you know.
That's right. And he had done so many Westerns, that was kind of his main forte, was Westerns.
Right.
And so you couldn't help but be influenced by him.
Yeah, absolutely right.